Welcome to the course Formal Languages and Automata Theory. In this lecture, we are going to continue with basic fundamentals or central concepts of automata theory. So we can recall in the earlier lecture what we covered: introduction to formal language and automata theory, then applications of automata theory or theory of computation, then the central concepts of automata theory. We discussed about alphabets, strings, and various string operations with examples. Now we will continue with the same concept, the central concepts of automata theory. The remaining concepts we will cover in this lecture. Languages, how to define a language, then what are various operations on languages with examples, then how to define a problem, examples of problems, then we will see what is a formal language, what are various types of formal languages and their recognizers with the help of Chomsky hierarchy. So in the basic fundamentals or central concepts of automata theory, we covered in our earlier lecture symbol, alphabet, string or word, string operations. You can recall once. A symbol is an abstract entity that we shall not define formally. The frequently used symbols are letters, either uppercase capital A to capital Z or lowercase small a to small z. Then digits 0 to 9 and special character. These are all frequently used symbols. Then coming to alphabet. An alphabet is non-empty finite set of symbols which is denoted by sigma. Then a string or word, finite sequence of symbols from some one alphabet, that is sigma. Then various string operations, what we discussed: concatenation of two strings, then reverse of a string, then length of a string, then empty string or null string, then substring, in substring, prefixes, suffixes, and proper prefixes and proper suffixes, then sets of strings, that is sigma closure and sigma positive closure. These are all various string operations we covered in the earlier lecture. Now we will continue to the remaining fundamental concepts, which is a language, how to define a language. Similar to string operations, we have various operations on languages. Then what is a formal language? Then what is a grammar or formal grammar? Then what is a problem? What are the examples of problems? Finally, we will see the Chomsky hierarchy overview. Then coming to language. Like string, a language is also defined in similar manner. A language is a set of strings of symbols from some one alphabet. You can observe the string definition. A string is finite sequence of symbols. There we mentioned a finite sequence of symbols. Here, with that sequence, we will form a string. That's why here we have taken directly string here. So a language is set of strings of symbols. So what string contains set of symbols? Then where symbols you can derive from alphabet. Now you can see here alphabet is included, symbol is included, string is included in the definition of language. So finally, a language is a set of strings of symbols from some one alphabet, that is sigma. So a language is denoted by L, which is a subset of sigma closure. We know what is sigma closure. Sets of strings, which is the star closure or closure of sigma, which can be obtained by concatenating 0 or more symbols from sigma. We will get this sigma closure. So finally, a language L is a subset of sigma closure. That means whatever the strings you can define, those strings can be a subset of sigma closure only. So that is mathematically it is denoted by the notation L is subset, subset symbol, subset sigma closure, that is sigma star closure. Then here we are calling a language is set of strings. Then what that set contains? What are the possible sets? We have an empty set, which is denoted by pi, and the set consisting of empty string, that is denoted by the set brackets and within set brackets epsilon or lambda. So these two are languages and these two are distinct. So by default, you can take any empty set which is denoted by pi, and a set consisting of empty string is denoted by within set brackets epsilon is also a language. So by default, these two are languages and these two are different. Empty set means it does not contain anything, any string, whereas empty string means the set with empty string. Both are languages and both are distinct. Then see the examples of languages. Let us assume the first example, the set of palindromes over the alphabet sigma equal to 0, 1, which is an infinite language. This is one example of a language. So what we defined the definition of a language? Set of strings of symbols from some one alphabet. So the set may be infinite, finite, empty, any of these three combinations. Now a palindrome string over the alphabet 0, 1. We know in programming logic, programming language logic of palindrome, the number and the reverse of the number should be the same. So then that is called as palindrome number or palindrome string. So what are the possible palindrome strings are generated from the alphabet sigma equal to 0, 1? So sigma closure by default includes null for all cases wherever. So first by default take null, comma. Individual numbers by default which are palindromes 0, 1. 0 if you can reverse 0, 1 you can reverse 1, same only, no change. Then 1, 1, you can see 1, 1 if you can reverse you will get again same. Then again you can take 0, 0 also, you can reverse you will get same. Then 0, 1, 0 you can reverse again 0, 1, 0 same you will get. 1, 0, 1 you can reverse 1, 0, 1 you will get same only. Then 0, 0, 1, 0, 0 you can reverse this string 0, 0, 1, 0, 0 you will get same. So and so on, like that you can generate infinite set of palindrome strings. Now this is one set which consisting of set of strings from symbols 0, 1. That symbols can be taken from the alphabet sigma. Now this is called as a language. Nothing but set of strings of symbols from some one alphabet. Now here palindromes language is infinite language. Why? Because we will get infinite number of palindrome strings. This is one example of a language. Then coming to second example, the set of all strings over a fixed alphabet. Here alphabet is fixed as letter A, lowercase letter. Only one alphabet, one letter. So we denote this language by sigma closure. That means sets of strings including null. For example, here sigma equal to A. A single fixed alphabet is given here. Then the possible sets of strings are null as usual, comma, the string with a single letter, comma, then the string with the letter repeating 2 times, because we have only fixed single letter. Then the letter is repeated 3 times, then the letter is repeated 4 times, then the letter is repeated 5 times, and so on, like infinite. So you will generate infinite sets of strings from a fixed alphabet A. Therefore, this is also a language. But the language consisting of all the strings with length 0, with length 1, with length 2, and so on, infinite length. But all the strings are composing with a fixed alphabet A. So whatever the alphabet given in sigma, with those combinations, you can generate sets of strings. Then that set is called as a language. So this is another example of a language. Then take another alphabet with 2 letters. Previously we have only fixed alphabet A. Now here we have taken 2 letters A and B. Then sigma closure equal to. Similarly, but here the strings are formed with the combination of A and B. So first you will take null by default, comma, single alphabet A, comma, single alphabet B. 2 alphabets are there. Separately you have to take single. Then by repeating with one or other combinations with 2 symbols, then A is repeating 2 times, then AB 2 different, then BA reverse, then B is repeating 2 times. So with the 2 symbol combinations, only these are the possible strings will be generated. Then 3 symbol combination strings. So same you can repeat 3 times, then combination with the other one. So AAA, then ABA, AAB, BBA, then BBB, and so on. Then 4 symbol combination, then 5 symbol combination, and so on, infinite. Now sigma closure is a set of strings of the symbols A, B from an alphabet sigma. So again, which is a language. Then another example. Let us take L equal to a definition like this: A power n, B power n, such that n greater than 0, which is a language. So what type of language is it? Infinite language. So how it is infinite language? You can see. If you can substitute n value starting with 1, you will get a set of strings. First, let us take n equal to 1, then L equal to AB. Here you can observe AB is a string. So not these are all characters or symbols. So these are all combined. Sequence is formed. So which is a string. So the set contains only one string, that is AB. Then n equal to 2. Here the language contains what type of strings? A power 2, B power 2. That means in the strings we can't denote with respect to powers. You can expand the strings, symbols. So here A square can be written as AA, then B square can be written as BB. Now the string is AA, BB. Then n equal to 3, then L equal to A power 3, B power 3. This can be expanded as A 3 times, then BB 3 times. So like infinite values with n value as infinite, greater than 0 means 1 to infinite. So you will generate different lengths of the strings. Here you can see n equal to 1, the string length is 2 because 2 symbols are there. If n equal to 2, the string length is 4 symbols are there. If n equal to 3, the string length is 3 plus 3, 6. 6 symbols are there. So like that, with different length strings are generated. Then every set we will call it as a language. Now this language is infinite language. Then coming to language operations. Similar to string operations, some of the string operations will be repeated here also. But this is for language. So first let us take the first operation of a language is complement of a language. But in strings we don't have this operation. So how to define the complement of a language? The complement of a language L is denoted by L bar or L dash. This is the notation of complement. Any language, whatever the symbol you are using for representing a language, then its complement by using bar or dash, and is defined as L dash or L bar equal to sigma closure minus L. We know sigma closure. What is sigma closure? Sets of strings including null. So from this you can subtract L. L means the given language, whatever the strings contains in L, that you can subtract from sigma closure. Then the remaining leftover strings in sigma closure excluding L are called as the complement of the language L. That is the definition of complement. Then second operation, reverse of a language. So which is same as strings reverse operation. In strings, how we have done reverse operation? In the given string, whatever the symbols that you can reverse from right to left, then that is called as the reverse of the string. Similarly, same operation we can apply for languages, but language may contains multiple strings with different definitions. Whatever the strings you can reverse from the language, then that is called as reverse of a language. So the reverse of a language L is denoted by L power R, where R is reverse, and is defined as formally or mathematically L power R equal to W power R such that W belongs to L, where W is a string, given string. So in the W, whatever the symbols are formed with a sequence, you can reverse the symbols. So then that is called as W power R, where W belongs to L only, the language, original language L. For example, let us take L equal to the language is defined as XY. So X and Y, two symbols are concatenated such that both X and Y belongs to the string W. Now the reverse of this language is denoted by L power R equal to, so in the L, XY is the string. So here what you mentioned, W equal to XY now. Then W power R you can find out, YX, that you can substitute here. So that is W power R. Then W power R equal to YX. Then again, where X and Y belongs to the same string only, but the symbols are reversed. So this is the example of reverse of a language operation. Then coming to another operation, concatenation of two languages. So this is same as concatenation of two strings. So concatenation of two strings, how we define? By writing the first string followed by the second one without any space. In the same fashion, whatever the strings in the first language, that can be concatenated with the second language strings without any space. Then you can define the first string and second string belongs to which languages. So the representation is same, L1, L2 without any space, and is defined as combining of the strings in both languages. For example, let L1 equal to X such that X belongs to A comma B whole closure. So here A comma B is nothing but sigma, directly values are given. Sigma closure, this is nothing but A comma B whole closure. is nothing but sigma closure only. Then L2 equal to, which contains the string y with single character, where y belongs to again same sigma closure, that is a comma b whole closure. Now the concatenation of these two languages L1 and L2 is denoted as L1 L2 with no space equal to. So again a single definition. First L1 string you can write down x, then L2 string you can write down y, then xy without any space, such that then you can define where x1 is taken. I mean x is taken. So x belongs to L1, comma, then y taken from L2. Therefore y2 belongs to L2. So this is the concatenation result of the two languages L1 and L2. Then coming to other operation, this is a very important operation, closure operation of a language. Similar operation we discussed in strings also, that is sets of strings. Sets of strings are of two categories. The first one is of sigma closure, that is with asterisk. By default, the star closure will call it a sigma closure, which includes null. Then another one sigma positive closure, which excludes null. In the similar fashion, for languages also, closure operation is same as that sigma closure and sigma positive closure. But here we will take the language. So that can be defined as, given an alphabet sigma, if we wish to define a language in which any strings of symbols from an alphabet sigma is a string, including a null string. So here is a string including a null string, that is epsilon, is called as star closure or also called as clean closure. Star closure or clean closure. There what we will call it as in strings, so we will call it as a sigma closure or sigma positive closure. Sigma closure includes null, sigma positive closure doesn't include null. So similar to that, but here the language, with respect to language. So given an alphabet sigma, if we wish to define a language in which any strings of symbols from an alphabet sigma is a string, including a null string, is called as star closure or clean closure. This is the first closure operation of a language. Therefore, which is defined as L closure is equivalent to sigma closure, not exactly equal, similarity. So L closure is similar to sigma closure. Then another closure operation is there. So the same definition is same as star closure or clean closure, but which excludes the null string. That is called as positive closure. Positive closure denoted by L power plus. So now you can recall the definition. Given an alphabet sigma, if we wish to define a language in which any strings of symbols from an alphabet sigma is a string, excluding a null string, is called as a positive or plus V, the representation, but you can read it as positive closure. So here, which excludes a null string is called as positive closure of the language, which includes a null string, that is called as star closure or clean closure. That is denoted by L power star. Then this positive closure denoted by L power plus. Now this L positive closure is similar to sigma positive closure. In strings sets of operation, we discussed about this positive closure of the sets of strings, which is denoted by sigma positive closure. Now the language positive closure operation is similar to sigma positive closure. Now the two similarities you can observe. L star closure or clean closure is equivalent to sigma closure. Then L positive closure is equivalent to sigma positive closure. That is the correspondence between string sets of operation and language closure operation. Then let us see some notations which are very useful in the closure operations of a language. So till now, as per the definition of star closure and positive closure of languages. Now we'll review the notations. Now a language L is subset of sigma closure. This is the first relation. Then with this, the star or clean closure of the language, that is L closure equal to sigma closure. This can be written as L closure equal to L power 0 union L power 1 union L power 2 union and so on union L power n. So this is the meaning of L star closure or clean closure, where L power 0, the language with 0 symbols. So then what it contains, epsilon or lambda, that is null string. That is the value of L power 0 union. Then L power 1, the language which consisting of the set of strings with length 1. Then L power 2, the language which consisting of the set of strings with length 2 and so on. L power n, the language which consisting of the set of strings with length n. So like that we will find out L power 0, L power 1 and so on L power n. Then union of all these is called as L star closure or clean closure or simply L closure. Similarly for positive closure, same as star closure, but you have to exclude null. That is the only difference. Now L positive closure equal to L closure minus L power 0. Why you have to subtract L power 0 from L closure? Because L power 0 contains the null string epsilon or lambda. So that can be excluded in L positive closure. Therefore L positive closure equal to L power 1 union L power 2 union and so on union L power n. Now here L power 0 is excluded, that is null. Therefore L positive closure equal to sigma positive closure. This Saralda notation shows the relationship between the language and strings, and the language closure and the sets of strings. So these relations are very important. Then similarly, we can recall sets of strings, that is sigma closure. So can be denoted as sigma closure equal to sigma power 0 union sigma power 1 union and so on union sigma power n. That is sigma closure means is the set of all strings on sigma can be interpreted as star closure or default closure. If sigma power 1 is interpreted as the language consisting of all strings of length 1, just now what we discussed. With this interpretation, we may write sigma closure equal to sigma power 0 union sigma power 1 union and so on union sigma power n. Similarly, sigma power 2 can be interpreted as set of all strings of length 2 over sigma, whereas sigma power 3 is the set of all strings of length 3 over sigma, and so on. Sigma power k is the set of all strings of length k over sigma. In general, this can be interpreted as sigma closure equal to first the set with empty string, that is epsilon or lambda union, then the set with strings of length 1, then union, the set with strings with length 2 union and so on union, the set with strings with length k and so on. So this is the interpretation of sigma closure. Then let us see some examples on closure operation of a language. So let take sigma as a comma b with two alphabets a comma b. Then sigma power 1 can be written as a power 1 b power 1 is nothing but a comma b. Again it is same as sigma. Then sigma power 2 can be interpreted as, so with set of strings with length 2 combination. With AB, what are the possible strings with length 2? First, you can take A and repeat with same A. Then two combinations, A, B, two different letters. Then interchange, reverse, BA, comma, then second symbol repeating with same symbol, BB. So sigma power 2, you can see all the strings with length 2 only. whereas sigma power 1 equal to all the strings with length 1 only. Similarly for sigma closer equal to, so the strings with length 0, then the strings with length 1, the strings with length 2, and so on. So that is sigma closer. So these are all the various operations on languages. So now come to the actual term formal language. So our subject title itself is formal languages and automata theory. Just now we discussed what is a language, then how to define it, then what are various examples, then what are the various operations on languages, then finally what is a formal language now. With language, how to define a formal language. A language or formal language, both are same in the course formal language and automata theory. So beyond this course, a language means that is different. It may be programming language. Again, programming language means different languages, or it may be our native language, our regularly teaching language. Like that interpretation is different. But in the course formal language and automata theory, a language or formal language, both are same. Now the definition is also same. A formal language or a language is a set of strings of symbols from some one alphabet sigma is called a formal language. So here the set of strings we already covered during language definition. The set may be empty set, which is denoted by pi. Then finite set, the set with finite number of strings. Then infinite set, the set with infinite number of strings. So any of these three are possible. Now again you can take back the same examples. So L equal to null, that is epsilon, comma a, comma a, comma a, and so on. Here you can see which is a language which consisting of the strings with length 0, the strings with length 1, the strings with length 2, the strings with length 3, and so on, the strings with infinite length. So this language generating all the strings with a fixed alphabet A. But what is the type of this language is infinite language. Then here one important notation, so we have to remember L of M. This can be read it as L of M is a language defined or accepted or recognized. Any of these three terms, the meaning is same. Defined or accepted or recognized by a mission or abstract model or recognizer. So these three terms also having the same meaning. Wherever you will get the term or heard the term a mission or abstract model or abstract mission or recognizer in our course formal language and automata theory, that is denoted by capital M. Then the language, whether that is defined or accepted or recognized by the model or recognizer or mission, denoted by L of M. The entire concept of this subject, formal language and automata theory, depends on this definition, L of M. So now where L is language, M is mission or model. Now what are various formal languages? Then what are various abstract models or missions or recognizers? So we will discuss about all the models and the languages. Then every language that is defined or accepted or recognized by a model or a mission or recognizer. Or reversely, you can tell like this. Every mission or abstract model or recognizer M which recognizes a language or which defines a language or which accepts a language. So now what are various models? Then what are various languages? A grammar or formal grammar describes the structure of a language. A grammar is denoted by the symbol capital G uppercase letter and is defined as a 4 tuple. What is 4 tuple? Which is combination of 4 symbols. Those will call it as tuples, 4 tuples. A grammar G is defined as a 4 tuple, that is G equal to V, comma T, comma S, comma P. So all are uppercase letters. This is very, very important. Entire of this course, wherever grammar occurred, the definition is same. G equal to V, comma T, comma S, comma P. This is a standard definition. We have various types of grammars. Grammar to grammar, the definition is same, only the rules are changed. So we have to remember each and every tuple involved in the definition of a grammar or a regular grammar. So in this, where capital V is non-empty set of symbols called as variables. Simply V stands for variables. Then capital T is non-empty set of symbols called as terminals, starting with the letter T, terminals. So you can easily remember V means variables, T means terminals. Now we will see what is variable, what is terminal after defining all these symbols. Then S. S is a special symbol called start variable. This S belongs to V. So the first tuple V, whatever the symbols, in that the starting one or first one is called as S. It is denoted by capital S, which is belongs to V, is a start variable. The S means start variable, but it is not a terminal. Then P stands for productions or production rules. So set of productions or production rules, and how to define productions we will see. Now finally we can recall a grammar G is denoted by G and is defined as a 4 tuple, that is G equal to V, T, S, P, where V stands for variables, T stands for terminals, S stands for starting variable which is belongs to V, then P stands for set of productions or production rules. Now we will see what are the production rules, then what is the general notation of defining a production rule. Now you can see it's very important for all grammars, whatever the grammars we are going to discuss in this course. So the general definition of grammar is same as the grammar or formal grammar. Then the production rules general form is also same. So which is a mapping function. A production rule is defined as a mapping function that can be denoted by P production colon. So P colon means P is mapping from alpha arrow, the unidirection right arrow, to beta. So this can be read it as alpha derives beta, or with respect to mapping, the production rules P is defined as a mapping function mapping from alpha to beta, but we can read it as the pronunciation alpha derives beta. So that means beta is derived from alpha, but you can read it as the regular conversion left to right. So alpha derives beta. Then what is alpha? What is beta? Alpha is the left hand side of the production. Beta is the right hand side of the production. The productions in left hand side and right hand side are separated by the unidirectional arrow. So with this arrow, whatever the symbols in the left hand side, then whatever the symbols in the right hand side of that arrow, we'll call it as the left hand side of the productions, then right hand side of the symbols of the productions. Then how to define alpha? That means which can be placed in the left hand side of the productions, where alpha is belongs to V union T whole positive closure. We know in the grammar definition G equal to VTSP. So V set of variables, then T set of terminals. So union of these V union T with positive closure. Positive closure means which does not include null. So left hand side symbols in the production consisting of either variables or terminals or combination of variables and terminals excluding null, that is epsilon or lambda. This is the rule or restriction of the left hand side of the productions. Whereas right hand side, that is beta, beta belongs to V union T whole power closure, that is star closure. See, same as alpha, but the difference is right hand side it includes either variables or terminals or combination of variables and terminals including null. So right hand side it allows null, but left hand side it won't allow null. In any grammar, whatever the types of grammars we will cover in this course. So left hand side it does not contain null, right hand side it allows null. So this is the general form of production rule. Then the restrictions of the left hand side of the production and the right hand side of the production. Now let us see one example. Before seeing one example, now what are the notations of variables and what are the notations of symbols? So this is very important. So by seeing this representation, so wherever these type of notations are occurred, based on that we will identify whether those are all variables or terminals. Like that we will distinct. So now variables are denoted by only uppercase letters. So that is capital A to capital Z, any uppercase letter, and some special Greek letters. Greek letters also we can use, etc. Variables are also called a non-terminal. So now we are seeing what is terminal also. So except terminals, remaining all called as non-terminals. Then the original name is variables, also called as non-terminals. Now what are the rules of variables? Variables are denoted by only uppercase letters or some special Greek letters like alpha, beta, tau, like using some special Greek letters. So variables also called as non-terminals. Then what are terminals? Terminals are denoted by lowercase letters, that is small a to small z. Any lowercase letter you can use. And you can use digits also, 0 to 9. Any digit you can use it as terminal. And some special operators like arithmetic operators, plus, minus, divide, then division, etc. Then relational operators like less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, not equal, etc. So these are all various notations of representing terminals. Now by seeing these two representations, we can easily identify for any given grammar what are the variables, what are the terminals. Variables are also called as non-terminals. Variables are only uppercase letters or some special Greek letters, whereas terminals are any lowercase letters, that is small a to small z, and digits 0 to 9, any digits, and some special operators like arithmetic operators, relational operators, etc. Now we'll see example of a grammar. Now from that example we can identify, so what is V, variables, then what is T, terminals, then what is starting variable, then what are the production rules. Now let us see the first example. So let G equal to VTSP is a grammar that we know the standard definition, where V equal to, so the variables are defined as a set V equal to S comma A comma B. Here you can see all the variables are represented by uppercase letters only. So capital S, capital A, capital B. Then terminal T equal to is a set with lowercase letters here, A comma B. Even you can use combination of digits also, then some operators also. Now t equal to a comma b, c lowercase letters. So as for our notations, restrictions, so variables are uppercase letters, terminals are lowercase letters or digits or some operators like arithmetic relational operators. Then in variables, we have three uppercase letters, that is S, A, B. The starting letter, by default, whatever the starting letter, that is called as capital S, which is a start variable. Suppose in the set V, if you don't have S, we have A, B and C, but starting is A, then capital S is A only. The starting variable is A. But here by default S is given, so the starting variable is S. Why? Because that will be placed in the first position of the list in V. So S is starting variable. Then the production rules are given below. So we already discussed the general form of any production rule. Alpha derives beta. Alpha is the left hand side symbols of the production. Beta is the right hand side symbols of the production. Now the production rules are, here production rules are more than one. Minimum one production rule is required. So more than one production rule exists for any given grammar. So now here the first production, see another important point we have to remember in any grammar, in any production, the starting production, it must start with the starting variable only. That is the rule of grammar here. So whenever defining any production rules in any grammar, the first production rule, it must start with the starting variable in the left hand side of the production. Now here the starting variable is S, capital S. So left hand side, it must start with S. Now S derives A, S, B. So capital A, capital S, capital B. So here it contains, as per the rule, alpha belongs to V union T whole positive closure. Alpha is left hand side. Whereas beta belongs to, beta is right hand side. V union T whole star closure, which includes null in the right hand side. Whereas the left hand side, it won't include null. Here you can see the first production rule, S derives A, S, B. So left hand side, what it contains? S. What is S? Is capital V. So it is a variable. Then right hand side, what it contains? A, S, B. All are uppercase letters. So all these three are variables. So here V derives V. As for our alpha, what we have? V union T whole positive closure. Beta V union T whole star closure. That means either variable or terminal or combination. Here we have only variable combination. So here left hand side we have single variable in all three productions. Then right hand side, the first production, three variables. So V whole closure. That means here variables are repeated, combinations, more than one variable. So right hand side, it includes null also. But first production, left hand side, it does not include null. That is the restriction it has to follow. Right hand side, it may or may not include null. So, but here the first production, right hand side, it doesn't include null. Then coming to second productions, A derives, so lowercase letter A, then uppercase letter S, then lowercase letter B. R, this symbol is called as R here, or epsilon. So what is use of R here? Multiple productions starting with same left hand side symbol are combined by using R symbol. So here A has two productions here actually. It can be written as capital A derives ASB is one production, then capital A derives epsilon. So let us try here. I will try to draw. So here the two productions. The first one is A derives ASB. This is first production, comma. The second production, A derives epsilon. Here you can see in any grammar, if any variable has more than one production, that means left hand side starting with same. Here you can see left hand side it start with A, then here also start with A, but right hand side is different. The first one is ASB, second one is null, but left hand side is common. Then these can be combined using the notation what we used. So using the OR symbol. So multiple productions starting with the same left hand side variable can be combined by using OR symbol. So here now you can observe here the second production left hand side it contains only single variable, right hand side it contains small a is terminal here, capital S is variable, small v is terminal, then epsilon that is a positive star closer. Now it is combination of V union T whole closer. Why? Because it includes null also. So right hand side it is combination of V union T whole closer. Then coming to third production, left hand side it has only single variable B derives. Then right hand side again same as previous one, terminal B, then variable S, capital S, then terminal small a or null epsilon. Here also B consisting of two different productions. That is B derives BSA is one production, then B derives epsilon. But starting with same left hand side variable. That's why these two can be combined by using OR symbol. So B derives BSA or epsilon. So this is also combination of V union T whole positive, star closer in the right hand side. But left hand side it contains only single variable. So here epsilon or lambda is a null string. So some representations they will use lambda, some they will use epsilon. Don't confuse. Anything is same, which is epsilon or lambda is null string. So this is the example of a grammar with explanation. Then see the another example, second example. So let G equal to VTSV is a grammar where V equal to SAB. Same SAB are the uppercase letters which are called as variables. Then T equal to A comma B comma plus. So here terminals are three, lowercase letter A, then lowercase letter B, then one operator. Plus is arithmetic operator. Then S is, see, without defining S, by seeing the set V, you can itself identify what is S, whatever the starting symbol in V. Now S is the starting symbol here also, so S is start variable. And productions P are given below. So the productions are grammar to grammar differ, but you need to verify the only condition left hand side of any production, it must consisting of V union T whole power positive closure, does not include null in the left hand side. Then right hand side is combination of V union T whole star closure, which includes null also. Now here SA, that is capital SA, capital S is variable, small a is terminal. SA derives all uppercase letters A, S, B. So those are all variables. Now left hand side you can see we have a variable and terminal. So V union T combination is there, but it does not include null. So V union T whole power plus positive closure you can use. That is the condition it has to satisfy any grammar. Then right hand side it is combination of V closure. That means V is repeated here. No terminals are there in this production, first production. Then null also not included in the first production. Then second production SB, capital S, small b. So S is a variable, B is small b is terminal. Derives ASB. Here small a, small b are terminals, capital is variable or epsilon. Epsilon is null string, also denoted by lambda. Now you can see here also it has two productions. SB derives ASB, then SB derives epsilon. Starting with the same left hand side combination SB derives ASB, SB derives epsilon. These two can be combined by using the symbol OR. Here right hand side it is combination of V union T whole closure. So null is also there. Then third production PA. Left hand side it has two variable combination V union V only, no terminals are there in this case. So positive closure because null is not included. Derives BSB where small b is terminal, then capital S and capital B are variables. So this is combination of V union T. Here null is not there in this, or A plus B. So A plus B is the single production. So only in between the symbol or, the entire sequence will be considered as one string, which is combination of variable terminal, then even null also. Now A plus B is one string, which is combination of a variable a terminal plus, and a variable B. So this is second production. So then this is the another example. In this example, left hand side having the combination of variable or terminal. In previous example, you can see left hand side we have only single variable only. Terminals are not included. Then based on these restrictions of the productions, we have different types of grammars. So those grammars we'll discuss throughout the course. In every unit, we will discuss one particular grammar, one particular language, then one particular acceptor or recognizer or abstract model. Okay, that's all about a grammar or a regular grammar. Then examples, their notations, representations, then production rules and the restrictions of the productions. Now we'll move to the last basic concept of automata theory or theory of computation, problems. So actually in normal or day-to-day life, what is the meaning of problem? Whatever the difficulty issues we are facing, that is a problem. Then how to find the solution of that problem, whether the solution is exist or not. That means a problem that can be solved if and only if there is a solution. Then a problem that cannot be solved if and only if there is no solution exist. Till many problems we don't have solution. Even our day-to-day life, you can question some issues, so we can't resolve. That means we don't have solution immediately. Maybe in the future, later, after some time, you will get it. So like in the concept of automata theory also, same is applicable. In automata theory or theory of computation, a problem is the question of deciding, whether a given string is a member of some particular language. This is the problem. So in the concept of automata theory or theory of computation, what is meaning of a problem? Which is a question of deciding whether a given string, so one string is given, whether the string is a member of a particular language or the string belongs to a language. A member means nothing but belongs. Mathematically we will use belongs to. That is the problem. So for this problem, whether it is belongs to that particular language, if so, then solution is exist. So if it is not belongs to or not related, that means that is rejected, not derived from that language. If it is belongs to means accepted or derived. If it is not belongs to means not accepted or rejected. Like that we will conclude. Then finally it turns out, as we shall see, that anything we more colloquially, means informally, call a problem can be expressed as membership in a language. Simply we'll call it as membership in a language. Suppose if you are a member of a particular association, particular professional body, or you are the member of the institution where you are studying, so that authorization, based on the authenticity, your authorization is verified, checked, you are belongs to, so then you are the member. That is the membership. Your authorization is failed, so you are not belongs to, you are rejected. So Based on that membership, we can identify. Same concept in the automated theory for a string, whether that is belongs to or not belongs to a language, that can be expressed as a membership. More precisely, formally this can be defined as a problem. If sigma is an alphabet and L is a language over sigma, then the problem L is given a string W in sigma closure, decide whether or not W is in L. Here you can see a string W is given that can be taken from the sigma closure sets of strings, then decides whether or not W is in the given language L or not. So that decidability whether that is belongs to L or not belongs to L, that is called as problem. So every concept of automated theory, whenever we are discussing a particular model, that model recognizes a particular language, then that language consisting of a set of strings, then we will describe a language as string that is being accepted by a model or recognizer. Every category we will define this problem statement as a default problem statement. Now let us see one example. So the problem of testing primality, this can be expressed by the language L suffix P. P stands for primality, consisting of what this primality consisting all binary strings whose values as binary number is a prime. This is actually a language with prime numbers, but all prime numbers are combination of only binary digits 0, 1. So then elaborately this can be represented as, that is given a string of zeros and ones. Say yes if the string is binary representation of a prime. Then say no if it is not binary representation of a prime. So like you can take our electric switch on off. So on means 1, off means 0. In the similar fashion, if it is a binary representation, yes, that is denoted by 1. If it is not a binary representation of a prime, no, that is 0. So for this is the nature of this language. For some strings, this decision is easy. For instance, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1. So cannot be the representation of a prime. So we know the concept of prime number. For the simple reason that every integer except 0 has a binary representation that begins with 1. Whereas it is less obvious whether the string 11101 belongs to the testing primality LP. So any solution to this problem will have to use significant computational resources of some kind, like time and space or any one, for example. So to solve this problem, we need to consider the time and space it occupies, the time it took to solve the solution of this problem, whether it is a binary prime or not. So like the language is a problem of testing primality. So if it is a binary prime, that means belongs to. If it is not a binary prime, then not belongs to LP. Like membership, it is belongs to LP or not belongs to LP. Like any example you could take. A problem with membership. So that's all about problem definition and examples. Then moving to the last concept of this lecture, Chomsky hierarchy of formal languages. So this is very important. Now with this, whatever the basics we studied, with these basics, you will easily understand the concept of Chomsky hierarchy now. Now here we will just give the overview of Chomsky hierarchy, but detailed explanation about this once our course is completed. entire 5 units, then entire our Chomsky hierarchy will be covered. Now first see the background or history of Chomsky hierarchy of formal languages. The famous linguistic mathematician Noam Chomsky, the name of the scientist, attempted to formalize the notation of grammar and languages in the 1950s. This effort due to Chomsky, this Noam Chomsky, resulted in the definition of the concept Chomsky hierarchy. So how this name came? So with the efforts done by Noam Chomsky, formalizes the notation of grammars and languages. Formalize means formally, mathematically formalizing. Now a Chomsky hierarchy, which is a hierarchy of language classes defined by gradually increasing the restrictions on the form of the productions. We discussed our grammar, production rules, then restrictions in the left hand side contain something, right hand side contain something, like by increasing the restrictions on the form of the productions. Then Chomsky numbered the 4 families of grammars as well as languages. So according to Chomsky, the grammars and languages are categorized into 4 families that make up the hierarchy and are defined as below. So as per the order defined by Chomsky, then that order will call it as hierarchy. So the following table you can observe, which consisting of different components. The first column heading it consisting of type. The second column heading is language. The third column heading is grammar. Then the fourth column heading is automata. This automata also called as abstract model or abstract mission or recognizer or acceptor, any name is same. Whereas grammar, a grammar or formal grammar, we discussed recently. So what is a grammar? Then language, also we covered what is language or what is a formal language. Now the automata also, in our first lecture we discussed introduction to automata. So all these terms we covered now. Now, as for Noam Chomsky, the languages and grammars are categorized into 4 families. So those can be listed in the hierarchical order. That's why this is called as Chomsky hierarchy of formal languages and grammars. Now you can see under the first column type. So consisting of the 4 families or categories. So named as the first one named as type 0, the second one named as type 1, the third one named as type 2, then the fourth one named as type 3. So the hierarchical order, how this order is represented, the computational power in in decreasing order. So for the first type, which is type 0, having highest computational power than all other 3 types. Then second type having lowest computational power than type 0, then highest computational power than type 2 and 3. Then the third type, that is type 2, having least computational power than 1 and 0, then highest computational power than 3. Then coming to the last one, type 3, having lowest computational power than 2, 1, 0. So the order, the hierarchical order is in the computational power decreasing order. Now every type of the Chomsky hierarchy, what it contains, a language, then a grammar, then its acceptor or automata or recognizer. So all these 4 categories, 4 families consisting of different languages, different grammars, different automaton. See all 4 languages, 4 grammars, 4 automatons are different, no repetitions. So the entire syllabus of this course, Formal Language and Automata Theory, is covered with combination of these four categories. So whenever we will complete all these four categories, languages, grammars, and their automatons, then our complete course will be completed. Now let us see the names. Here we won't concentrate much on the explanation of all the languages, all the grammars and automata. Just here we will review the names and belongs to which type, etc. Then further our regular syllabus will cover all these concepts in detail. Now type 0, the language is called as recursively enumerable language. So abbreviated as REL. So you have to remember this table as the master data for the course Formal Language and Automata Theory. So you need to remember for every type what is its language, what is its grammar, what is its automata or acceptor. So in any competitive exam like GATE or PG set or research entrance examination or some government technical examinations, you will get questions from this course. From this table, definitely you will get 2 to 3 questions. Even in our university prescribed internal examinations, it may be objective or subjective. So definitely you will get questions combination of this table. So type 0, its language is recursively enumerable language. Then its grammar is phrase structured or semi-true or unrestricted grammar. 3 names it has. So alternative names, but the definition is only unique. Phrase structured grammar or semi-true or unrestricted grammar. Any name is same. Then automata or acceptor or recognizer is Turing mission. So automata means these are all missions, models. Grammar means just now we discussed it. Language means we covered what is a language. Then type 0, language is a recursively enumerable language. Then its grammar is phrase structured or semi-true or unrestricted grammar. Its automata is Turing mission. So denoted by TM. These acronyms also you have to remember in examination or in many notations, they won't give full forms. Simply they will give the acronym. So you need to remember the abbreviations as well as their notations. Then coming to type 1, its language is called as context sensitive language, CSL acronym. Then its grammar is context sensitive grammar, so abbreviated as CSG. So then its acceptor is linear bounded automata, so abbreviated as LBA. Here one relation, similar names you can observe for language and grammar except type 0. Type 1 you can see language is context sensitive language. Grammar is context sensitive grammar. The first portion name is same, context sensitive. So in place of language, you can add language. In place of grammar, you can add grammar. So like that, type 1, 2, 3, similar names for language and grammars are there. But acceptors are different for every type. No similarities. Now we can see type 2, its language is context free language, abbreviated as CFL. Then its grammar is same name, context free. Now language is replaced by grammar, context free grammar, abbreviated as CFG. Its acceptor is push down automata, PDA. So push down automata. Then the last type, type 3, its language is regular language. Then its grammar is actually regular grammar. But here there are two types of regular grammar, right linear grammar, left linear grammar. Then its automata is finite automata. So now, according to this Chomsky hierarchy, now you can see the computational power order. So the computational power in decreasing order as per the previous table, how we listed. Type 0 having highest computational power than 1, 2, 3. Type 1 having highest computational power than 2 and 3 and least computational power than 0. Then type 2 having highest computational power than 3, then least computational power than 1 and 0. Then type 3 having least computational power than 210. So this is the arrow, down arrow, which shows computational power in decreasing order. Then the relationship with respect to the computational power, here you can see type 3 less than type 2 less than type 1 less than type 0. This relationship is based on the computational power decreasing order. Now the last one have a type 0 having highest computational power, then type 1, then type 2, then type 3. Type 3 having least computational power, than type 2, type 1, type 0. This relationship also we have to remember. Then same thing diagrammatically we can represent. See this diagram. It contains two parts. Left side consisting of various types of the formal languages. Then right side contains its automaton or acceptor. Then middle, the respective type and automatons are connected. Their language names are represented here. Then automatically grammars, you can refer the table. So in the diagram also you can observe type 0 is the largest category which takes more space. Then its acceptor is Turing machine. Its language is recursively enumerable. L means language, suffix name of the language. Recursively enumerable language. So in the diagram also according to shape you can see the largest size is type 0, second largest is type 1, third largest is type 2, then least is type 3. So having lowest space, lowest storage. So with respect to size, this diagram represented. So type 0, its automata is Turing machine. Its language is recursively enumerable language. Then type 1, it is connected to its corresponding automata, that is linear bounded automata. The colors also discriminated, you can see. So the green color type 0 with the same arrow color, then right side also same color box. So similar color boxes are connected. That means it's type 1 automata. Then type 1 orange color. So in both side, left side, right hand side, and arrow also same. Type 1, its acceptor is linear bounded automata. Its language is context sensitive language, L suffix. Then type 2, light sky blue color. Then its acceptor is push down automata, PDA. Then its language is context free language, L suffix CFL. Then type 3, that is yellow color. Its acceptor is finite automata in the right hand side, connected with the yellow color box. Then connected through the yellow color arrow, L suffix RL, that is regular language. This is the diagrammatic representation of Chomsky hierarchy of formal languages. Then for full details on Chomsky hierarchy of languages, so you can watch the video lecture link given below. So I have created one video lecture on the complete detailed description about the Chomsky hierarchy with the type 0, 1, 2, 3 with all the definitions and formal definitions with the notations. You can go through this video. Okay, now we'll close the today's lecture. Now coming to the summary of the lecture 2, what we discussed till now. Basic fundamentals or central concepts of automata theory. We continued the remaining concepts, languages, then language operations, then formal language, or then grammar or formal grammar, then problems, how to define a problem, then examples of the problem, then finally the formal language and Chomsky hierarchy, just we reviewed. So that's all about today's lecture. Then next lecture we will continue with new topics. So till then, goodbye, happy learning.